Hey guys, I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible. I just want to give you an example of the kind of damage we can do without Deepest Tower. We are still using the low life nodes because I can't be bothered changing the tree, but remember that they only happen to, at a third health, so for the most part we're getting 35% less damage. Or not 35% less damage, we're only doing like a third of our damage. For the most part. And I still got the presence area nodes, which could be put into damage. So, yeah. So I'm just running without a Deepest Tower. I've done tons of sims like this. Yeah, it's fine. I'm also running Defiance of Destiny, so I'm also leaving another 25% damage from the projectile skills. So yeah, but Defiance of Destiny is really strong, as you'll see. Besides that, everything else is the same. Nothing changes. I'm going to talk about the support gems. So you can clear more than fine without remotely optimizing your support gems for the content. So usually for mapping, I run Adhere, Reach, Suffuse, Domain, and Bursting Plague. This works fantastic for mapping. Mapping generally doesn't... The mobs aren't as strong as they are in Sim, unless you go into crazy maps. So this damage is more than enough to clear that content, and it still works excellently. I barely noticed a difference. Well, you notice a difference, but it's not as much as people think. Also, in mapping, a lot of the time, the enemies are actually... You're killing enemies outside of your presence in some scenarios, especially if it's wide open maps. And I'll explain to you the interactions that actually still kill them without having them in your presence. So potentially the clear during big maps could actually be even better, which is what this build excels at. Type maps, yeah, you're going to notice a little bit of difference, but it's still fine. But let's say we optimize it for the content. Do we need instant detonation for T4 Sim? No, so we're getting a lot of damage here. Do you need tons of area for Sim? No, so we're getting extra damage here. And yeah, I'm going to show you how easy it is. And that any nerf is not going to be that bad. So why are we killing enemies still really quickly? Well, one, our base interaction, which is just scaling number of poisons, and the fact that Gas Grenade already has really good scaling for poison with that modifier. That's why we're still doing a lot of damage. The next thing is how strong Bursting Plague is. So in the next one I'll show you how strong it is, the interaction. But the short of it is it's essentially a corpse explosion that doesn't require a corpse. You just need to kill the enemy. This does a proportion of the enemy's life as the damage. And yeah, if you know anything about corpse explosions, they scale really well with content because the life generally gets higher in content difficulty. Yeah. So it remains impactful, and it's why Bursting Plague's a better support than Armor Explosion, because Armor Explosion, the damage starts to taper off as the content gets harder. Meanwhile, Bursting Plague will always feel good. Then the next thing is Bursting Plague will, let's say you poison an area, an enemy dies, there's lots of enemies around it, this Plague Burst chips the health of all the enemies around it, because they're either getting poisoned or the Plague Burst might even just kill them. They will then Plague Burst, and then this will start shotgunning all the enemies around it, and basically it just starts sort of becoming like a bit of a feedback loop, or pseudo-chaining in a way. So as long as they're, in the gas cloud, you'll just start getting this almost chaining effect of Bursting Plague and the poisons. It's really strong, and I'll give you an example of it by getting all the enemies together. And this gets stronger the more dense the content is, so breaches and stuff like that. We'll do some zombie training. Okay, we'll get some grenades down, and you're just gonna start to notice that the bursts will just start popping them, and then yeah, they all just start to die. And you're probably wondering why I'm surviving so much right now. That's all because of Defiance of Destiny. Yeah, so the damage is still fine. And yeah, a lot of the clear was actually coming from Bursting Plague. So as long as Bursting Plague remains unchanged, the clear will still be good. And yep, they're taking a lot of reduced damage and stuff like that in Sim, so yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about the damage too much, about any low life nurse. It's still going to be really good. And paired with enough life sustain. Paired with enough life sustain, you know, 2% life on kill, 2% life on kill, and maybe using an amulet like this. You're not going to die anyway if your damage is less. So yeah, the build will remain fine, just you know, a lot of people were asking me about it. It's fine. You know, this isn't even including, like, I'm not trying to optimize the damage or anything too much, so I wouldn't worry about it. And if all it takes is just a couple gem swaps to make it cruisy, sure. But I've done this without doing any of the gem swaps, and it's fine. So yeah, let's talk about Defiance of Destiny. So strong. It gets stronger the lower your health gets, so in content like Sim, where they're hitting you a lot, it becomes an extremely valuable sustain tool. Where the point where we could just stand here and just AFK everything if you wanted to. Yeah, I've done like a bunch of T4 Sims now. Just AFKing, just holding down right button, and you'll kill everything. So yeah, that's Defiance of Destiny. 2 div it cost me. It gives us all the stats we want as well, for the most part. Not as good as a rare amulet, but you just don't necessarily need all the damage from, you know, plus level to skills to kill everything. And then we don't even need Deepest Tower to kill everything. If I did this with Deepest Tower, nothing would touch me, almost. But yeah, just to calm the storm. I've also set up a tree for next season. It'll be in the POB, but basically what we do is we chop off this part of the tree. This is geared towards Endgame. The main reason we path here is for blood magic. But we can get that with a helmet, which solves our mana costs. So we can solve our mana costs with life sustain. So yeah, chop this part of the tree off. Chop all the low life nodes off. You can put it all into empowered attacks, 2-hand damage, shock, ailment stuff. Yeah. So basically the single target will be still extremely good. We lose about 25% of the damage, but it's honestly not that's pretty good. This is all pending on if Sunder remains unchanged. If not, we might have to find another single target skill, which should be easy, because Plague Finger makes it very easy to adapt any skill. Yeah. This isn't 100% accurate because, like, for example, the attack damage will not get scaled by shock, but then all the amulets will, so it's going to be a little bit less, but still, we're well in excess of, you know, what damage would be required to one-shot a boss. This is about within 5% of what the actual damage will be, so yeah. And this isn't even including things like Ancestral Boost, so yeah. And you know what? Here's something that's really fun. Let's say you got a +3 Prism of Belief for Sunder. That's a good amount of damage. Let's say you got a +3 melee skills, because I showed that you don't need all the melee skills on your amulet. So you could do that. Holy guacamole, huh? And then you slap on Ancestral Boost. Yeah, you know, you're looking at like a pretty big hit. If you want to scale the damage as high as possible. There's also another question, whether it comes from Bulwark and this from nothing. Bulwark's still really good because it saves you from the one-shots, or a lot of them at least. And when you have high sustain and stuff like that, Bulwark's actually a better support than having and just dodging hits. At least I find, because they're not the problems. I'm worried about one-shots. I'm not worried about dodging anymore. So, yeah, the life regen's also nice, but there are ways to get it on the tree. So, it will never be that bad. And then, you know, could probably further optimize the tree. Might be able to do it from nothing for here and get like some crit damage or something like that. Like these nodes here, it's like, I think that gives us like almost like 15% more damage. So yeah, you could definitely like further min-max or something like that. But, you know, this is just a proof of concept more than anything. It shows that it should be more than possible to get away with it. And especially if you wanted to push it with gem levels, you 100% can. I'm probably just going to get to 21. You know, as long as I can one-shot him, I don't care. Yeah. So that's, I'll have this in the description. This is like a goal. I'm not going to talk about leveling. I have no idea what I'm going to do with leveling. It might be a bit different if they add axe. You know, we just don't know yet. But the short of it is that we should be fine. As you can see, there wasn't really that much problem. Anyway, there you go. So I highly recommend Defiance of Destiny. Really good. And you can get like, I've seen ones that give you like 12% increased max life for like 30 div, and you still get the recover 24% of missing life, which is like, that's pretty good. That'll push your health almost to, I'll push it to like 6k, or at least on my build. And I'm still running these runes. If I wanted to, what could we do? Maybe like 6.2, 6.3, something like that. Not bad, right? Anyway, catch you later.